We're glad to have you here. So as you're well aware, this topic is the record breakers. And we have two men on the panel, very distinguished hockey players. The first played for Team USA a bunch, had a very distinguished NHL career, scored over almost 800 points in the National Hockey League, a type of career that put him in the United States Hockey Hall of Fame, and he is the best analyst in all of sports. It's an honor for me to sit next to him. Chicago's very own Eddie Olczyk. Next up, a career that is far from finished, and already he's probably had to have put an addition onto his house for all the awards he's picked up. Rookie of the Year, Conn Smythe, Olympic medals, and the reigning most valuable player in the National Hockey League, the leading scorer, Art Ross Trophy winner, Patrick Kane. Well, obviously, there were a lot of highlights the Blackhawks put together last season. We all watched what Kaner did, but a lot of us probably aren't that familiar with what happened back in the 90s when Mr. Olczyk put together his streak. Give us a little history there, Eddie. You're with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Who's your coach? Who's on your line?
Well, I played with Gary Leeman and Mark Osborne, two guys that had incredible careers in our National Hockey League. And as Kaner can attest to, when you get on a little bit of a roll, every time you show up at the rink and you know what your job is that you just feel like you're going to be able to put points up on the board and do what you're supposed to do. Didn't start thinking about it really until you start getting into 6, 7, 8, 9 games, but you need a little bit of luck, but you got to play with great teammates, as Kaner mentioned last night during the opening ceremonies here for the convention about your line mates and your teammates, and you need those type of guys to help you along the way. And but I think it is a mindset is when you start getting on a roll that you know that you're going to go out there and do what you do best. But Gary Leeman and Mark Osborne were two guys. Leeman could score goals. And Mark Osborne was one of those hard-working type of guys that would get into the corners and do all the dirty work and get the puck out to the two guys that can do the offensive damage, and was lucky enough to go on a nice little roll for a good stretch.
Who was the coach?
Well, I had John Brophy there for a good period of time. George Armstrong was there as well at that particular time, but for me, and our coach, John Brophy, who had just passed away, I guess probably over the course of the last 5 or 6 months, he knew exactly what the strengths and weaknesses of my game were, and put a little extra pressure on to make sure that regardless of what the score was, I was going to get an opportunity to continue on with the streak.
Were you guys supposedly the top line, or when they number them 1, 2, 3, yeah. Were there many games where you went well into the game, not much happening? Did you get any extra ice time? Would he double shift you at all?
I don't know about double shifted, Pat, but every time there was a power play, just like Kaner, and you get out there for the first power play, you get your opportunities, you get your good looks. There were some games too. Once I knew that this was going to be one of the breakout sessions here at the convention, I just kind of went back and looked over some of the numbers and some of the games that, just like shots on goal. I think there was only like one game of the 18-game streak that I had where I had anything less than 2 shots on goal. I was always getting chances, always getting shots on goal, and there's no doubt that my teammates knew what was going on. once you start getting up to that number, all of a sudden it becomes about a record for the particular team, and it's something I'm very proud of. I still share the record in the Toronto Maple Leafs, who have been around forever. It's a record that I share with Daryl Sittler, who holds the record all time for consecutive game scoring streak for the Toronto Maple Leafs, along with Phil Kessel, who did it in Toronto as well. So anytime you start getting up around those numbers and you start hearing those names, as a lifelong hockey fan, you start realizing that this is pretty good stuff.
You talked about, I mean, nobody can do it on his own. You got to have line mates. Did you guys play together a long time before this season, before this streak happened?
Yeah, we had great chemistry. It's a little different now, where it seems like maybe every other period or every other game somebody's got a different winger or a different center iceman. It's just the way that it is throughout the National Hockey League, not only here, but I think there is something to that. I'd be interested. I mean, I get obviously an incredible opportunity, as we do, Pat, on a daily basis, to be around Kaner and a lot of these great Blackhawk players, to kind of talk to them a little bit and get an idea of how they see things, and playing with the same guys and knowing what a guy's going to do. I mean, the relationship or the chemistry, whatever word you want to use, that any time that Patrick Kane and Artemi Panarin on the ice, you just know that something incredible is going to happen. And it was like that for me when you play with guys all the time, is that I knew exactly what a guy's going to do before he does it. And I kind of feel the same way when I'm up in the TV booth with the Hockey Hall of Famer up there, the great Pat Foley as well. I love that shirt, by the way. I love that shirt. I can see that on opening night next year, right there. Put a little tie on that part.
No coat, no tie. I'm just going with this.
We're gonna have a meeting. We're gonna have a meeting.
Yeah, right. I was worried about the lights going on. I don't want to get lost. So we talk about chemistry among line mates. Patrick Kane starts last year with two guys he's never played with before, and the chemistry seemed to be instant. And Artemi Panarin shows up. Everybody had heard about what a heck of a player he is. But of course, he doesn't speak a lot of English. The one thing he did understand was when in training camp, Kaner told him, look for 88. He seemed to get that. But, I mean, I like to say brother from a different mother. I watch you two guys play. There's a lot of similarities there, right? I mean, this guy's a great playmaker. He sees the game, sees the entire ice surface. When you first started playing with him in camp, what did you see? And did you know something special was there?
Yeah, we saw him in Notre Dame. You knew right away he was going to be a special player. I think he went down maybe a couple weeks with an injury, and then came back and played the last preseason game against Dallas, and that was our first game together with Anisimov, myself, and the Breadman. And I remember, I think the first couple shifts he had a play in the neutral zone where he kind of danced a couple guys and made a couple guys miss and gave me the puck, and that was kind of the wow moment for a lot of us, that hey, this kid's pretty good, he's going to be able to play, and hopefully you're one of the guys that's playing with him. So I was very fortunate with that. But like you said, the first thing I said to him, actually, when I came up to him and we were playing together, I said, pass puck 88. And he just laughed, so I kind of got the gist of it, that he understood what I was saying.
And that's the thing. I mean, you're with him in the locker room every day. Those of us on the outside don't get to see his full personality. And I don't know how much he talks, and I think his English has improved, but you've kind of alluded to this. This kid's got a twinkle in his eye. Like, I think if he could really speak English well, I think we'd find him hilarious, wouldn't we?
Well, he's already hilarious. He's just one of those kids. He shows up to the rink every day. He's got a smile on his face. Excuse me. He's just a pleasure to be around. He's one of those kids, when you're going to the rink, you want to hang out with him, you want to talk to him. And, we had a really, really strong relationship, even to the point where if Anisimov was doing something else on the road or had to meet up with something else, it would usually be myself and Panarin for dinner. And you think that would be pretty awkward with, one guy that speaks Russian and one guy that speaks English, but, it really wasn't. We just kind of, I understood words that he could kind of understand in English, and we had conversations with that. We used a lot of kind of hand motions and using the phone and Google Translate and things like that. But you know, it was almost like for the first year, kind of like a match made in heaven. But you know, we had our battles as well. There's plenty of times. I mean, I'm sure if you talk to our teammates during Nisimov, he was in the middle of us, kind of yelling at each other on the bench, and he only knew a few words in English that he could say to me, so it'd always be the same thing every time. But they were bad words, so it was still pretty funny. But and even to the point where you're almost mad at him, but a couple seconds later you're kind of chuckling to yourself at what he's saying. So, but it's good, you know. You got that energy, that focus. You know, they got that desire that they want to have a good shift every time, whether you have a couple points in the game or not. And that was one of the things that our line would always say to each other. You know, if we had a couple goals or a couple points, you know, in the midway through the game or heading into the third period, we'd always look at each other and say, "No happy, no happy," and you know, try to keep propelling ourselves throughout that game.
Tell us a little bit about what Anisimov means to the line. Not necessarily a big numbers guy, but you got two smaller wingers, a bigger centerman. Educate us on what he means to you.
Yeah, I mean, he's you know, he's sometimes you feel bad for him because, you know, we'd have 2 or 3 points in a game and he'd have nothing, but he'd be the biggest reason that we were scoring those goals because, you know, he was in front of the net or you know, creating time and space by winning battles along the boards or winning face-offs. He's so good at those things, and you know, sometimes it kind of goes unrecognized, so you have to keep I guess, you know, telling him he's doing a great job and he's doing the right things out there. And I think that was a big part of our line this year, is because, you know, he would do the dirty work, and even though maybe he wasn't getting on the score sheet as much, he continued to do you know, that work that helped us be so successful. But he's a great guy too. You know, he's one of those guys that he's just, you know, so calm, cool, and collected off the ice. You know, he comes in, he doesn't really warm up before the games. He sits there with his, you know, legs crossed and has his hot tea before every game, and just very calm and just like it's another day. So it's funny the different personalities you see kind of around the locker room, but especially with those two guys. I think we're all so different, but it's a pretty good match when you put it all together.
Hey, when you get older, you'll start crossing your legs and having hot tea too, okay? Just so that-
I feel like I'm getting there already. So.
Yeah, right.
Well, listen, we have some videos here. The great Blackhawk TV staff and under Adam Kempenaar has put together a little video, so you can take a look back, not only at Patrick Kane's great streak, but some of the terrific highlights from Eddie Olczyk's marvelous career. By Kane, he's got Panarin with him. Kane racing in. Let's see with a shot. Patrick Kane moves with it, top of the right wing circle and shoots. He scores! Patrick Kane! Chased into the far corner, put it into the skates of Hjalmarsson. Ahead to Kane. He hand passes it ahead to Panarin with an open net. He shoots. He scores!
He holds record for longest point streak by a U.S.-born player and a Blackhawks franchise record.
Sends a tumbling puck to Panarin over the Bruin line, down the left wing. Put it behind the net, and Anisimov there. Centers for Kane. He scores! Look at that as he played it back, and a steal. And here comes Kane. He scores! Seabrook then sends it ahead. Panarin over the Bruin line to Kane, right circle, shoot. He scores! Hat-trick for Patrick Kane, and that's his 100th point this season. Navigating in over the King line on the left wing, shoots. He scores! Wow! He's got some space. He drives with a shot. He scores! Another 4-point game for Patrick Kane. Williams gets to it, held in all alone. Kane, he scores! In front, Kane, a rounded check to the backhand. He tried a shot. Oh, did he have a rebound? Hawks win, Patrick Kane.
got Eddie?
No, there's no video when
This
I
will be
played.
in black
There's
and
no
white.
video. There is color video somewhere, but got to put the VCR in over there. Half the room doesn't even know what a VCR is in there, I don't think.
I would like to introduce Eddie. Being a Chicago guy living and dying with the Blackhawks as a young boy, this is truly an honor.
But it's just another day. It's just another day. Just another day.
Please welcome number 16. Olczyk got to it. Olczyk busting at center ice, comes over the line, shooting. He scores! Olczyk! And Olczyk cuts in all alone, shoots. He scores! Eddie-O! Beautiful execution. You talk about getting the momentum back. That's the way you do it. Somebody makes a play.
I was really that fast at one point.
League game. One of your own from Palos Heights, Illinois. Eddie Olczyk.
I don't know why they sped up that goal at the Madison Square Garden. That was a pretty good goal going coast to coast, by the way.
It was a great goal.
It might just took maybe about 8 minutes.
It would still be on if it was in real time. Eddie, during your streak, how close did it come to ending before it did end?
Yeah, I think, Pat, I was trying to remember the other day, and I think there were a couple of games where I went into the third period where I had nothing. And somehow, some way, I think I had one, I had an assist on an empty net goal, and I think another one we got one really early. But I think what I remember most from the streak was how it came to a screeching halt. I mean, really, I actually hit 2 posts in the game against the New York Islanders. A good friend of mine, Glenn Healy, who ended up playing together with the New York Rangers when we won a cup in '94. We had chance after chance after chance. It was just one of those games where it was just like, it's not going to happen, not going to happen. And sure enough, the next game against Calgary, I had 4 points. The next game, I had 2 goals, 2 assists, and it's just the way that it goes. So, but there were a couple of games where, you start thinking about it, and, I mean, I'm sure for Kane, and we had this conversation many a times where, you just find a way to keep it going. And, I mean, it was funny when I was I think it was over Thanksgiving, I was flying from the East Coast to California to catch up with the Hawks, and I was lucky enough to be on United Airlines, and they happened to have DirecTV on, and the Hawks and Ducks game was on the TV, and I'm watching the game, and Kaner's trying to tie my streak while I'm watching on the airplane. And they put up a graphic at the start of the third period, and Ray Ferraro, a former teammate of mine, a friend of mine, is doing the game, and they put the graphic up saying that Kaner's, where he was all time for American-born players, and I'm sitting there watching it, and I'm just going, I know he's going to get it. I know he's going to get it. I just know he is. And I can't remember if the score was 1-0 or whatever the score was late in the game, and Kaner had nothing, and I'm just going, somehow he's going to get the puck, and it's going to end up in the back of the net. I just had that feeling at 37 or 38,000 feet in the air, and sure enough, Kaner got the puck back to the point. I think it ended up being Dunk. I think they ended up scoring in Anaheim and tying the game, or whatever ended up happening. And I mean, I was thrilled to have a guy like Patrick Kane to be able to tie that record, because I'd had it or been a part of it for over 26 years. Nobody had come that close, and there he was, the best American-born player in the National Hockey League, tied that streak. So. But for me, it was, when my streak ended, I mean, I was disappointed because I thought I could have, got to 25 or 30. I mean, I really believe that. You have the confidence to be able to do that. But I think what made it hurt even more is, like I said, the next game I ended up getting 4 points and then going on a 7-game scoring streak right after that. So it's just the way that it goes. But that's kind of what I remember about how the streak, the luck ran out.
Really, for both you guys, and Eddie, you're doing this in Toronto, so the Toronto media is, I mean, that's a religion up there, the sport of hockey. When did the attention start getting big? And did it ever get too big? And I want to hear from Kaner on that topic too, because as these things go along, the media, that's what we're going to talk about. Yeah, and, they're talking to your teammates about it. Maybe the guys get tired of it. How does it go?
Yeah, no, I mean, it was much different, obviously, now than it used to be. There was no social media. There was no space face. There was none of that kind of stuff back in whatever you call it. But like I said, it became a topic, Pat, when I started getting within a couple of games of Darryl Sittler, right? I mean, there's a guy that scored 10 points in one game for the Toronto Maple Leafs back in the day. And I mean, a legend and a Hall of Famer. And, when you started getting around those numbers, you're looked upon, boy, this guy's, he's a pretty good player. You start getting into 15, 16 games in a row. So much different now. But I love the attention that Kane got during the streak. Not only the American-born record, but Blackhawk history and where he fell into the greatness of the Blackhawk franchise, and rightfully so, because now the world we live in now, it's instantaneous. So I would imagine a little bit more pressure. I'm sure for Kaner, not only from the outside but from inside, because he wants to be the best. He is the best. He's proven that. But to be on a streak like that. It does put a little added pressure on the people around you to keep the streak going. I'm sure there's no doubt that for Panarin and Anisimov and the rest of his teammates, there were games there I know that guys were looking for Kaner, and rightfully so. Why wouldn't you want to get him the puck, right? I mean, that's what if you're a smart player, that's what you do. Get it to the best, and they'll get it back to you. So there is that little bit of pressure that comes with a streak like this, whether it's individually or you look at it from a franchise best.
In your world, when did the attention start getting big during the streak?
I would say probably around maybe 15 or 16 games. Actually, a couple years previous, I had Eddie talks about going on the 18-game streak, missing one, and then going on another 7. I had a 14-game streak, missed one, and went on a 12-game streak right after that. And I think around that time I was at 12. I was feeling pretty good about myself, and I sit pretty close to Eddie on the plane, so we always talk about hockey and different things. And like I said, I was feeling pretty good at 14 or 12, and I was talking to Eddie about it, and he said, "Yeah, let me know when you get to 18. I got the American-born record." So.
Yeah, the old man had to try to flex whatever muscles he had on that particular flight for a while.
So that was always in the back of my head, that 18 was the American-born record, and then, like Eddie said, Phil Kessel tied that a couple years previous as well. So I was around, 14 or 15, and kind of just thinking I wanted to get to that number 18 and see what could happen after that. So I was fortunate enough to do that. Like he said, I got a pretty weak assist on my 18th game in Anaheim, and then I remember the next game in LA, I had a wide open chance to start the game. Panarin fed me in front, and I missed it. So I was just kind of thinking, hopefully that's not my only chance. This game ended up scoring in that first period on a great play by Duncan Keith. Just kind of tipped the puck away from Dustin Brown, who was trying to clear it on a penalty kill. Ended up scoring, and then was fortunate enough to talk to Eddie after the first intermission in that game. So. It's funny just how history comes together like that. And then, you think, you're pretty set at 19 games there, and then you start hearing about, the franchise record being 21. I ended up tying it in Ottawa, and then the next game, I think we were playing Winnipeg, and you saw the highlight there where my 22nd point game streak there continued when I made a hand pass to Panarin. And was lucky enough in our own end. It was funny because you talk about your teammates knowing about the streak. I mean, he knew about the streak at the time too. and we're coming into the huddle there after we scored, and you know, I didn't think he knew much about it, or much about the history of the NHL, and he was saying, "F you, Bobby Hull, F you, Bobby Hull." So those are moments I'll never forget. Had another empty net the next game to make it 23, and then it continued on to 26. And you know, you talk about the media. At that point in time, it was like the only question I was getting, so it almost got like frustrating at the time talking about it every day. But and then, you know, after I think the 27th game there, Q played me like 25 or 26 minutes against Colorado. I had nothing going on that night. I was done. So it was a good run, and 26 was a good number for me.
You know what? Yeah, that's awesome stuff. That's just two quick things. One is I knew Kaner was on a roll. I think we saw it during that great video highlight package there when he was getting ready to rip the puck about 110 miles an hour, about 15 feet out from the Minnesota goaltender there, and the puck went end over end. He was expecting a fastball, and he got a knuckle curve, and you saw I think I might have said during the broadcast, I think we saw the commissioner's autograph on the puck. That's how slow it was going. And it just found its way, and that's what happens to great players. It finds its way to the back of the net. You try something, and that's what, the puck doesn't by accident, I don't believe, find great players, and certainly Kaner is that. And the other thing is I'd be remiss if I didn't say that. I was on that airplane watching Kaner tie the record. I couldn't have been more thrilled, and I told Pat this, that I was able to be there and call and be a part of the broadcast, to be able to call Kaner getting that goal against Jonathan Quick, another great American-born player, to be able to eclipse the record that I had for a long time. So I was very, very proud to be there that night in Los Angeles when Kaner was able to do that.
And I can tell you this because I sit next to this guy all the time. It's a class act. I don't think it's probably very easy to have a long-standing record and watch somebody break it. And he's sincere. I mean, he couldn't have been more thrilled. And I think mostly because it was this guy. If it was some guy in the New York Rangers or somebody, might have been a different story. But miss. So I was looking.
No, hold on a second. Let me just say this. I wouldn't mind if we might have shared the record for a little while. I mean, maybe if the Hawks would have played on a Saturday and then, we could have shared it for a week or something, but just happened to be 24 hours. But yeah, that was a pretty cool trip for sure.